Let me tell you about two people. Person A earns $60,000 a year. They have a decent job, they pay their bills on time, and every month they tell themselves they'll start saving next month. They've been saying that for 4 years. Right now, they have $340 in their savings account. Person B also earns $60,000 a year. Same job title, same city, same rent. But Person B has $10,000 sitting in a savings account. And here's the thing. Person B doesn't stress about money the way Person A does. Not because they earn more, not because they have a fancy budget spreadsheet, but because crossing that one number changed something in their brain that they didn't even fully understand at the time. Today, we're going to talk about why $10,000 is not just a number, it's a turning point. And most people don't realize it until they've already crossed it, or until they never do. Here's what most people believe about saving money. They think it's a math problem. Earn more, spend less, save the difference. Simple, right? And yet, study after study shows that the majority of adults, even people with good incomes, are living with almost nothing saved. In fact, a huge portion of people say they couldn't cover an unexpected $1,000 expense without borrowing money or going into debt. So if saving is just math, why can't people do it? Because saving money isn't a math problem, it's a psychology problem. And until you understand the psychological shift that happens when you reach your first $10,000, you'll keep treating saving like a chore you're supposed to do, instead of the most important financial move of your life. Imagine your financial life is like driving a car with the fuel light always on. Every trip you take, you're watching the gauge, calculating whether you have enough to get where you're going. You're not thinking about where you want to travel 6 months from now. You're not thinking about upgrading your car. You're just focused on not running out of gas before the next paycheck refuels you. That's what it feels like to have no savings. Your entire mental energy is consumed by the present. Every financial decision feels urgent and stressful. And when you live in that state long enough, you start to make decisions that keep you there. Impulse purchases to relieve stress, avoiding financial statements because they feel overwhelming, telling yourself that your situation is permanent. Psychologists call this scarcity mindset, and it doesn't just affect how you feel, it literally changes how you think. Research from Princeton and Harvard found that people in a state of financial scarcity lose the equivalent of about 13 IQ points when it comes to making decisions. Scarcity narrows your focus so tightly on the immediate problem that your brain can't properly plan for the future. This is why people who feel broke make decisions that look irrational from the outside. It's not stupidity, it's the cognitive tax of scarcity. Now here's where it gets interesting. $10,000 is the number where something shifts, not because of the number itself, but because of what that number represents for most people's lives. For the average person, $10,000 is roughly 3 to 4 months of living expenses. It is, for the first time in their adult life, a financial cushion that is actually large enough to matter. It means that if their car breaks down, they don't panic. If they lose their job, they have runway. If an unexpected bill arrives, they can absorb it without going into debt. And when that safety net exists, even for the first time, the brain does something remarkable. It relaxes. Not completely, not forever, but enough. Enough to start thinking beyond this week. Enough to make decisions based on what's good for you long term, rather than what relieves anxiety right now. Think back to our car analogy. When you reach $10,000, it's like your fuel gauge for the first time is showing half full. You stop white-knuckling every trip. You start thinking about where you actually want to go. But there's something even deeper than just the psychological relief. When you hit your first $10,000, your identity changes. Before that milestone, most people secretly think of themselves as not a saver. They've tried and failed enough times that it becomes part of how they see themselves. I'm just bad with money. I've never been able to save. That's just not me. But the moment you cross $10,000, you have undeniable proof that those stories were wrong. You saved $10,000. That's not nothing. That's a real thing you did. And that small identity shift from someone who can't save to someone who saved $10,000 is more powerful than any financial strategy you could learn. It's the same reason people who run their first 5K become runners. It's the same reason someone who finishes their first book starts calling themselves a reader. The behavior creates the identity, and the identity drives future behavior. Once you see yourself as someone who saves, you make different choices. Not because you forced yourself to, but because it aligns with who you now believe you are. Here's the insight that most people miss.
Getting to $10,000 is the hardest part, not because of the math, but because you're doing it without momentum. When you're building your first few $1,000s, every step forward feels like a fight. You're overriding years of spending habits. You're battling the voice in your head that says you deserve this or you'll save next month. You're doing the hard thing with no proof yet that it's going to work. But after $10,000, something different happens. The saving starts to build on itself. First, the emergency fund is in place, so you stop draining your savings every time life happens. The money actually gets to stay and grow. Second, you start seeing your savings account number go up instead of just going down, and that feels good. Psychologists call this a reinforcement loop. The reward of seeing progress makes you more likely to keep doing the behavior that created it. And third, and this is the one nobody talks about, your savings start earning money on their own. $10,000 at a 5% high-yield savings rate generates $500 a year in interest, passively. That's not life-changing money, but it's the first time in your life your money is working alongside you instead of just sitting there. And once you feel that, you want more of it. This is the moment people go from saving money to building wealth. It's not a decision, it's a natural evolution that happens once the foundation is in place. Here's the important thing to understand. $10,000 is not the destination, it's the threshold. On one side of that threshold, you're reacting to money. Every financial decision is a response to a problem. On the other side, you start proactively directing money. You start asking different questions, not how do I survive this month, but how do I make this money grow? That's when people start thinking about investing, about index funds, about compound interest, about building income streams. Not because they read a book that told them to, but because their brain is finally in the right state to think long-term. The scarcity mindset gives way to an abundance mindset, and abundance thinking is where wealth actually begins. So what do you actually do with this? If you don't have $10,000 saved yet, that is your only financial priority right now. Not investing, not crypto, not whatever financial trend is being talked about online. Your one job is to build a $10,000 foundation. First, calculate your exact target. Take your monthly expenses, rent, food, utilities, subscriptions, transportation, and multiply by 3. That's your personal version of the $10,000 milestone. For some people, it's $8,000. For others, it's $15,000. Find your number. Second, treat this savings goal like a bill you owe yourself. Automate a transfer to a separate high-yield savings account the same day your paycheck arrives. Not what's left over at the end of the month, because there's rarely anything left. The first transaction. Pay yourself first. Third, and this is crucial, make the account slightly inconvenient to access. Not impossible, but not instantly available on your main banking app. Friction is your friend here. The harder it is to spend impulsively, the more likely it is to stay. And here's the mind shift to carry with you as you build. Every dollar in that account is not money you gave up spending. It's a vote for the version of you that doesn't panic when life gets hard. It's a vote for the version of you that makes decisions from a place of calm instead of crisis. That's what you're actually building. Not just a number, a new way of relating to money entirely. The difference between person A and person B at the start of this video wasn't income, it wasn't discipline, it wasn't luck. It was one decision that person B made, probably uncomfortably, probably slowly, probably with a lot of doubt, to build a foundation before anything else. And once that foundation existed, everything got easier. Not perfect, but easier. Your financial life doesn't get better when your income goes up. It gets better when your relationship with money changes. And that relationship almost always changes at the same place, around that first $10,000, when you prove to yourself that you can do it. So if you're somewhere at the beginning of that journey right now, I want you to know something. The version of you on the other side of $10,000 thinks about money completely differently. They make different choices. They feel different walking through their week.